Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss The Godfather Part 3, starring Al Pacino, Diane Keaton, Talia Shire, Andy Garcia, Eli Wallach, Sofia Coppola, Joe Mantegna, forgive me for that, George Hamilton, Bridget Fonda, and Rafe Vallone, and directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Now, I have seen this movie once before in my life, and what do I remember about it? The bad performance by Sofia Coppola. Let's get into it and you'll see why. The movie begins in 1979 with a brief flashback establishing the long and tragic story of criminal activity writ within and by the Corleone family. Much has changed, and Michael Corleone, returned by Al Pacino or Cappuccino, is now approaching 60 and feels tremendous guilt for indulging in his ruthless ambition many years ago. Although his previous conquests have made him a very rich man, the thoughts of his children, their future, happiness, and his legacy are the only things keeping him going. His adopted brother Tom Hagen is now dead. The Corleone compound at Lake Tahoe is abandoned and in disrepair. Michael and Kay, returned by Diane Keaton, were divorced in 1959 at the end of the second film, and Michael gave her custody of their children, Anthony and Mary, who's played by Sofia Coppola, who's really bad in this movie, and this movie looks bad at this time. I can't believe it. Mary comes to say hello to Vincent Mancini, played by Andy Garcia, as at a lavish party, and how creepy was it that a 15-year-old Vincent had a girlfriend that was an 8-year-old Mary? And the fact they're cousins, which is even creepier than the reunion of Michael and Kay. And not only that, I thought it was awkward as their son Anthony telling him he's going to drop out of law school to pursue a career as an opera singer. And the acting in this is just horrendous. Despite Al Pacino and Andy Garcia getting nominated for awards and never won any, thank God for this one, anyways. And following Michael, and Mary is just telling me I'm going to have a really hard time with this movie. And the ceremony scenes are awful, particularly Vincent picking up a reporter named Grace Hamilton, played briefly by Bridget Fonda, and takes her into his apartment. And what the fuck is Bridget Fonda doing in this movie? Admittedly, it was her earlier in the career, but she's bad as Sofia Coppola, and her character is the worst. In Michael's study, Vincent and Zasa, I don't know if I'm saying that right, so I'm just going to mess this up a lot during the show, tell him how about their feud as the discussion grows violent, and Vincent accusing Zasa of being an out of control monster who mocks Michael behind his back and says, fuck Michael Corleone behind his back. And at the end, Vincent bites off part of Zasa's ear, and Michael hires the guy of being violent. Didn't make much sense to me. And the ceremony scene takes way too long. I felt every minute of this movie. This movie is way too long. Despite the other two were longer, sure, but this one felt it. That night, two men break into Vincent's apartment after he spends the night with Grace. Vincent brutally kills one in order to frighten the other into revealing Zasa as the man who sent him. Then Vincent ruthlessly kills the second man, and I can't connect with these characters, nor do I like nor care about them. And this movie is absolutely fucking boring, and I can't believe how boring it is. Though they are cousins, Vincent and Mary begin a romantic relationship with Michael being known, without being known to Michael. Vincent, with the urging of his Aunt Connie, plotting revenge against Joey Zasa, and they have no chemistry, Andy Garcia and Sofia Coppola. They have none whatsoever, which is a real shame. And Vincent and his accomplices kill Zasa's bodyguards, and the Vincent, disguised as a mounted New York City police officer, shortly after murders Zasa himself. And I'm getting really ready to snooze as I'm an hour into this movie, and I've got an hour and 50 more to go. The family travels to Sicily And Michael tells Vincent to speak with Don, let me see if I'm saying this right, Altabello, and in order to see where the old man's loyalties lie, to intimidate him and to his intentions of leaving the Corleone family under the pretense that his affair with Mary still exists and that loyalty to Michael has been supplanted by his desire to continue the relationship. Altabello supports the idea of Vincent switching his allegiance and introduces him to Licio Lucchesi. I don't know if I'm saying that right. The man behind the plot to prevent Michael's acquisition, and Immobilier, which is badly acted. And Michael has lunch with Kay and asks for forgiveness for his behavior 20 years earlier. He also tells her that he never planned on to go to the life of crime. Kay admits that she loves Michael, and the two make plans to begin a new life together. Where's the chemistry between Al Pacino and Diane Keaton? Because it's completely gone. Vincent tells Michael what he has learned from Altabello. Lucchesi is behind the plot against the Immobilier deal, and a master assassin known as Monterlepre, aka the man who killed Tomasino, has been hired by Altabello to kill Michael. Vincent wants to strike back, but Michael cautions him, saying that if he goes ahead with such a plan, that there'll be no going back. Vincent insists revenge, and Michael relents, and he makes Vincent head the Corleone family the new Godfather in exchange for the promotion. Vincent agrees to put an end to his heated relationship with Mary once and for all, and I think Francis Ford Coppola should have moved on to another movie that's better than this, at least in my opinion. The family travels to Palermo to see Anthony perform the lead in Cavalleria Rusticate at the renowned opera house Teatro Massimo. Meanwhile, Vincent makes plans to seek revenge against the Corleone family's enemies, which I'd expect from a mob movie, but this does it poorly. For example, Kienzig is assaulted by Vincent's men. His body is hanged over the bridge to make his death an apparent suicide. Anchor Bishop Gilday has the head of the Pope poisoned. The Pope soon drinks it and dies at the opera. Don Altabello eats a dish of poisoned cannoli that his goddaughter Connie serves him. He soon dies silently at the opera as Connie watches through her opera glasses. Al Neri shoots Anchor Bishop Gilday as he climbs a special staircase and flings the Archbishop down the stairs. Finally, Corleone button man Callo approaches Don Lucchesi and whispers in his ear, "Power wears out those who don't have it," before stabbing Lucchesi in the throat with his own pair of glasses, killing him. Immediately, Callo himself is killed by Lucchesi's bodyguards, which felt fucking painful. Mascastos, the assassin hired by Don Altabello to kill Michael after Anthony's performance, and they shoot Mary in the chest, and one of them shoots Michael in the shoulder. And I didn't feel bad for Mary at this point, as I was ready to move on with my life. At times, the movie got boring for me. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 2.7 out of 10. This movie was boring, poorly acted, and despite it was well made, I just wanted to move on with my life. The acting in this was horrendous by Sofia Coppola, and I didn't feel bad when she dies by the end of the film. This will never reach up to The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, and it's a shame. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this Godfather retrospective. And until then, let's shoot them motherfuckers. when I wish they could do that.